ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो
भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं
नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं
नरं चैव नरोत्तमं
नरं चैव नरोत्तमं
देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं
देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं
ततो जयमुदीरयेत्।
ततो जयमुदीरये।
नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु
नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु
नित्यं भागवत सेवया
नित्यं भागवत सेवया
भगवती उत्तम श्लोके
भगवती उत्तम श्लोके
भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी।
भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी।
Reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, title Conclusion, the Perfection of Renunciation. And today's verse is verse number 30. Pravritim cha nivritam cha
प्रवृत्तिं च निवृत्तिं च
कार्यकारे भयाभये
कार्यकार्ये भयाभये
बंधं मोक्षं च वेति
बन्धं मोक्षं च यवेति
बुद्धि सा पार्थ सात्विकी।
बुद्धि
सा पार्थ सात्विकी।
प्रवृत्तिं च निवृत्तं च
प्रवृत्तिं च निवृत्तिं च
कार्यकारे भयाभये
कार्याकार्ये भयाभये
बंधं मोक्षं च या वेति
बन्धं मोक्षं च यावेति
बुद्धि सा पार्थ सात्विकी।
बुद्धि
सा पार्थ सात्विकी।
प्रवृत्तिं च निवृत्तं च
प्रवृत्तिं च निवृत्तिं च
कार्यकारे भयावहे
कार्याकार्ये भयाभये
बंधं मोक्षं च या वेति
बन्धं मोक्षं च यावेति
बुद्धि सा पार्थ सात्विकी।
बुद्धि
सा पार्थ सात्विकी।
Any Prabhujis would like to read?
प्रवृत्तिं च निवृत्तिं च
प्रवृत्तिं च
निवृत्तिं च कार्यकार्ये भयाभये
कार्याकार्ये
भयाभये बन्धं मोक्षं च यावेति
बन्धं मोक्षं च यावेति
बुद्धि सा पार्थ सात्विकी।
बुद्धि सा पार्थ सात्विकी।
प्रवृत्तिं च निवृत्तिं च
प्रवृत्तिं च निवृत्तिं च
कार्य अकार्ये भयाभये
कार्याकार्ये भयाभये
बन्धं मोक्षं च यवेति
बन्धं मोक्षं च यावेति
बुद्धि सा पार्थ सात्विकी।
बुद्धि सा पार्थ सात्विकी।
हरे कृष्ण।
Thank you very much. Word by word meaning. Pravritim, doing.
प्रवृत्तिं
doing.
Cha, also.
also.
Nivritam,
निवृत्तं
निवृत्तिं
not doing.
not doing
Cha, and.
and
Karya, what ought to be done.
कार्य what ought to be done.
Akarye,
कार्य
and what ought not to be done.
and
and
what not to be
what
done.
not to be done.
Bhaya, fear.
Bhaya,
Bhaya, fear.
Abhay,
abhaye
Abhay,
and fearlessness.
and fearlessness.
fearlessness.
Bandham, bondage.
Bandham
Bandham, bondage.
Moksham, liberation.
Moksham, liberation.
Liberation.
Cha, and.
Cha and
Cha
And
and
Ya, that which.
yeah,
yeah, that
which
Veti, knows.
Veti
he
knows.
knows.
Buddhi, understanding.
Buddhi, understanding.
So, that.
So that
That
Partha, O son of Pritha.
Partha,
son of
son of
Pritha.
Pritha.
Satviki, in the mode of goodness.
Satviki,
Satviki,
the
in
mode
the
of
mode of
goodness.
goodness.
Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki
Prad
jai.
ki jai.
O son of Pritha,
O son of Pritha,
Son of
that
Pritha.
understanding
that understanding
by which one knows
by which one knows
what ought to be done
what ought to be
ought
done
to be done
and what ought not to be done,
and what
and
ought
what
not to
ought
be done,
not to be done,
what is to be feared,
what is to
what
be
is to be
feared,
feared,
what is not to be feared,
and what
and
is
what
not
is
to be
not to
feared,
be feared,
what is binding
what is
What is
what is
binding,
binding,
and what is liberating
and
and
what
what
is
is liberating
is in the mode of goodness.
is in the mode of goodness.
is in the mode of goodness.
Any Prabhuji would like to read this purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Performing actions in terms of the direction of the scriptures is called pravrutti, or executing actions that deserve to be performed, and actions which are not so directed are not to be performed. One who does not know the scriptural directions becomes entangled in the actions and reaction of work. Understanding which discriminates by intelligence is situated in the mode of goodness.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Let's all pray together. Ajnana
Dhananjala
Chakshur unmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Tam yena bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sadantikam
Vandeham
Shri
Guru
Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavancha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Chaitanya Devam Radha Krishna
Krishna
Radhan
Sagala
Sahajan
Lalita Sri Vishakani
Vishakam
He
He Krishna
Krishna
Karuna
Karuna
Sindhu
Sindhu
Bando
Dinabandhu
Dinabandhu
Jagatpate
Jagate
Gopesha
Gopesha Gopika
Gopika
Kanta
Kanta Radha
Radha
Kanta
Kanta
Namostute
Namostute
Tanta
Bhakti
Kanchana
Gauri
Gaurani
Vrindavaneshwari
Vrindavan Sute Devi
Hari
Namami Hari Priye Kalpatarushya Kripa Sindhu Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo
Namo Namaha
Namaha
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Prabhu
Nanda
Nityananda
Gadadhara
Srivasadi
Srivasadi Gaura
Bhakta-vrinda.
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna
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 Krishna,
Hare
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 Hare,
Hare
Hare
Ram Hare
Rama,
Ram
Hare
Ram
Rama,
Ram Hare
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Sridhachalnivasa Nityaya Paramatmane Balabhadra Subhadra Jagannadhaya Te Namaha.
So thank you so much for joining this wonderful Sangha every Friday at 8 p.m. when we take every verse and try to go deep into it in this wonderful acclaimed scripture, Bhagavad Gita, and we try to stay focused on what Srila Prabhupada is explaining from the verses spoken by the Purna Purushottam, Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here, Lord is explaining three things. So in the last verse, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is saying he's going to explain understanding in three modes. What is the general understanding of people in various different three modes? So he kind of summarized in 29 that he's going to go step by step. Understanding in mode of goodness in 30. Understanding in the mode of passion in 8.31, and then understanding in the mode of ignorance in 8.32. So in today, as he's delving deep into 30, he's saying three things actually. What is understanding? The real understanding is understanding which is based on scriptures. That is the basic understanding. And within that, a person who can recognize what is good and bad based on scriptures, that is the true understanding in the mode of goodness. And then he's getting into detail around what is to be feared and what is not to be feared. And sometimes this is trying to go deep into a realistic and a practical way to define and distinguish our understanding in the mode of goodness. And what is binding and liberating? That means by doing what activities or doing what actions gets us bound to the work, and getting us out of that binding is very difficult, and it's not recommended based on the scriptures, because that will get us more into the activity and get us more closure to it will not help us in our liberating process, or that will get us lobha moha, and that will not get us out of the liberating process. So essentially Krishna is talking about three things. Understanding, what is the true understanding? True understanding in the mode of goodness is what is based in scriptures. That's one. And secondly, what is to be feared and what is not feared. That's the second thing. And the third thing is understanding which will get us closer to binding to that thing or to that activity or to that process, and it will not help us lean in towards Krishna. And what is liberating? So these are the three things we're going to talk today about. So and here Krishna is saying pravritim cha nivritim cha. That is what we have to be doing and what we're not supposed to be doing. And that is what karya akarya, what ought to be done and what ought not to be done. That's one thing. Second thing is bhaya abhaya. That means what is fear and what is fearlessness. And the third thing is what will lead us to bondage and what will lead us to liberation. So very beautiful subject matter if you think. So Krishna is very clearly suggesting that our understanding, which is based in the principles of scripture, is true sattvic understanding, true mode of goodness understanding. Anything we do in our life, anything we follow in our life, as long as it is based on scriptures, that is the true sattvic or the mode of goodness understanding. And anything which is not sattvic mode of understanding. And then it goes on to say additional things. So what we should recognize is we are discussing jnana of karma yogi, how the karma yogi can situate himself by doing actions, by understanding the three modes of material nature with respect to the correlation with various elements of action. So till the jnana cha karma cha karta cha, that is mentioned in verse 19, and what is discussed in subsequent verses, which talks about jnana and then karma and karta. And now we are back to understanding. So you see, Krishna is emphasizing that jnana, karma, karta is critical in this process of understanding. And he mentioned in the 29th verse, in another transition verse, where further elements of action will be mentioned, and those elements will be analyzed in verse 30, 31, 32, and then onwards. 30 focusing on buddhi, which is understanding, which is what we are focusing on. So these verses are appearing in triplets. So there will be a summary verse and there will be a triplet verse. There will be a summary verse on dhriti, and there will be an explanation in 3 verses, triplet. And then there will be explanation of sukham, and there will be explanation of the triplet around sukham, happiness in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So in this sense, we are very clear that one understands that what is the cause of bondage and what is the cause of liberation. Bhaya bhaye. There is a healthy fear and unnecessary fear. Healthy fear is child should have fear from fire. That is a healthy fear. He should not touch the electric wire. And then, in general, he should have fear for certain things which is undesirable. So, having fear, Krishna is saying, is not bad. Healthy fear is good. And then, unnecessary fear. Child may have fear about going to school. Similarly, someone is having fear in following spiritual path. Many devotees, they do not come to Krishna consciousness because they think that this will take them or derail them, which will not help in their business or in their professional life. But that is actually unnecessary fear. But following the process is something which will give us strength to face this material music, is something which is healthy fear. That means we have to be alert, we have to be fearful that today is Ekadasi and we should not take, because if you take things or consume things in Ekadasi, which is coming up tomorrow, you will have consequences. The consequences can be of any kind, can be of health kind, can be in your spiritual progress kind, or in any way which is prohibited in your sadhana. So, unduly fearful and unduly reckless both are desirable. So, say for example, you know that there is a well, and well is deep, and you should not go deep into the well. That is healthy fear. But if a person thinks that I know swimming and I can just jump into the well, and by doing that, he has unnecessary fear wherein he would go and drown himself and eventually die. So this is and Krishna says, Bandham Moksham Yaya Chaya Veti. That means sometimes people are not able to discriminate between feel good actions and the long term consequences of actions, that such action could be binding. Sometimes people start smoking with the intent to try out once or twice. And after one or twice, the smoking puts them into bandhana, wherein there is attachment and they cannot leave cigarette. And after not being able to leave cigarette, that gets them into the mode of cancer, and that really takes life away. So any form of bandhanam which will take us away from Krishna consciousness is not favorable. Anything which is not taking us away from Krishna consciousness is actually favorable. So when one understands these differences properly, then that is buddhi in the mode of goodness. Buddhi sa parthasattviki. So Krishna, Lord Krishna, the fourth line, is so beautifully explaining buddhi sa parthasattviki. So to large extent, sattvic buddhi comes by study of scriptures, because that will transform us from our current stage to a stage which is favorable in our path to Krishna consciousness. Yes. So senses perceive in our outer world, sense comprised of doorway between inner world and outer world. And if this doorway is not illuminated, then there is a destruction because of that, as discussed in the 14th chapter. So doorways expect some transition, change of state, and need to be illuminated to avoid accidents. So if this doorway of sense are not illuminated, we have wrong choices, wrong turns, and take self-destructive decisions. So when the path we are going, if it is not illuminated, it is not guided by somebody, or it is not being guided by scriptures as it is mentioned, then we will go into astray, and that will uh, take that will not make us differentiate between healthy fear and unnecessary fear. And this fear, sometimes we say person is fearless, but he should be healthy, fearless. If he is unhealthy or unnecessary fear is there, then he will really drown himself. So jnana and buddhi, that is essentially what we are trying to understand. So Krishna has described knowledge and goodness as being beyond matter to spirit. But here intelligence in mode of goodness is described as as knowing what should be done and what not to be done. So this is the very interesting thing we should recognize, that we are we have modes controlling us. So this is that beautiful. No, no, Prabhu, I'm not screen sharing, but now I will screen share one thing, which is essentially this one. I wanted to screen share to the Prabhu. So here, the modes are controlling us. The mode, and those modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance is controlled by Krishna, as you can see in this beautiful scripture. And there, Krishna is saying, understanding in the mode of goodness is when you are abiding by scriptures. Scriptures are telling us what is good and bad. And there you are having controlled fear and you have unnecessary fear. As the example we are giving, we always want our child to be fearless. But in the realm of fearlessness, we should think that he should also be careful that the knife he is holding to cut a vegetable or fruit is should be used nicely. But if that knife is misused, he may cut his hand. Likewise, if we have a matchbox, that matchbox can be used to light a beautiful incense in the to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If some area of his room is smelling bad, he can use that to light the incense and roam around with the incense to quench the the aroma, the bad aroma which is coming. But actually, if you start using that matchbox to light a cigarette, that will basically cause him to go in a wrong direction. So, very beautifully, Krishna is explaining that you should have controlled fear. You should recognize what you should do with the intent that will get you closer to your destination in a way which is favorable, which is positive, and which is reinvigorating. And if you do not have that, and if you are consistently fearless and you drive at 90 miles an hour just because a machine, a car is given to you, and with that you drive with rules which are not controlled, and that will lead you to getting tickets or accident. So Krishna wants us to be very cognizant of fear. Krishna doesn't want to be a coward. Krishna wants to be very courageous. But at the same time, Krishna wants to recognize that you need to have controlled fear and you should not have unnecessary fear. So, controlled fear and unnecessary fear is something we all should be aware of, and Krishna is so beautifully explaining. And any activity which is binding to that activity. Anytime we start making samosa, and then after some time you really want to make only samosa because making samosa is something which it gives you happiness because people praise about your deeds about making samosa, and then the action of making samosa is very binding. You do not want to make anything else if there is a need. So you become very so binding. It actually happened in many temples that some devotees who started making some item very nicely, that action was bounding them to that service. So the action should not bound that specific action should not bind that to in our heart to keep doing the same thing again and again. Whatever the need is, the hour is to please the Supreme, whether you clean the toilet or clean the corridors of the toilet, or clean the trash around our temple, or making samosa, or making something garlands for the Lord. Whatever pleases you, not getting bound by that action, is something which Krishna is emphasizing, and 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 what will liberate us. Pleasing the Supreme in various different ways will liberate us. and not that specific action which gives us happiness and not the supreme happiness, then what good is that? If making samosa doesn't give Krishna happiness and make you so entangled into that service, then what good is that? And having controlled fear is so essentially two things to be taken away. The more fundamental thing being what is narrated in scripture and what is not narrated in scriptures is a division between understanding in the mode of goodness and mode of not goodness. And after that, controlled fear and uncontrolled fear has to be recognized. So Arjuna, in many different ways, was very cognizant about controlled fear and uncontrolled fear because Arjuna is actually our yardstick when it comes to following a devotee. He was completely surrendered to Krishna. Initially, he was not, but after the second chapter, third chapter, he started becoming. And when he saw the Virat Rup in the 10th chapter, he was totally convinced that I have a guru at my disposal, and I should not have who I thought to be a cousin, brother. Is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he started following. And in his yardstick, so he could really shoot anyone. But at the same time, he will not shoot innocent people in this world where there's a lot of war going on and rockets are being pounded. It is basically killing a lot of innocent uh, kids and women. And so, what has to be feared? How the rockets should not be launched in areas which are filled with schools and colleges. You know, these are the basic tenets of Bhagavad Gita. And if we follow it properly, anything which is binding and anything, what is the difference between what is binding and what is liberating? What has to be feared and what has not to be feared? As long as we have a full understanding, that will lead us in the mode of goodness, and that will take us closer to Krishna in our consciousness, in our thought process, in our actions. And if that is understood properly, so we should all instill that element of caution or fear in general, which uh, Srila Prabhupada is translating as fearfulness and fearlessness. Bhaya, fear, abhaya, fearlessness. Bandham, bondage, moksham, liberation. As long as these four words of this verse is taken with due respect and we all have that awareness, then I think we have understood the verse properly. And and thank you very much for your kind attention. And I would like to hear some of your reflections about this beautiful verse where Krishna is explaining understanding moderness as someone who has understood the difference between bhayavahe and who has understand the difference between bandham and moksha. So thank you very much. Any comments, questions, Prabhuji, or reflections? I'd like to hear some reflections. Because this is such a sweet verse. We all can take a lot of outcome from there. Any comments, Prabhu?
No, Prabhuji. Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Then from all glories to all the Vaishnavas. Prabhuji, thanks for explaining with succinct examples. The main thing, Prabhuji, which when you were explaining what I was trying to understand and realize was the way Krishna has presented these three in the order and Prabhupada has explained is they are related, Prabhuji. Related in the sense sequentially. I wanted to my realization, Prabhuji, that the first of all, it is a knowledge. He's asking us to what to be done and what not to be done. That is a knowledge, Prabhuji. Pravritam cha, nivritam cha. So we should have that sharp knowledge.
Understanding.
Yeah, knowledge that what is to be done and what is not to be done. And with that, we will automatically get when we know that what is not to be done is being done, we end up in fear, Prabhuji, which is what you explained as uncontrolled fear, basically, right? That means we should not do that, and but we are doing it. So that means we are not having the right definition of the fear there, because we are doing the things which is not to be done, and then naturally that will lead us to the bondage, right, Prabhuji? So I think this is how I understood that the knowledge will give us basically what to be done and not to be done, and that knowledge, if not applied properly, will instill fear in us in a right way or a wrong way. If you adhere to the shastras, it will give us the right fear. Okay, this is not to be done, and if I do this, I will have consequences, like Ekadashi example what you gave, and it will basically either take us to bondage or liberation if we do it or don't do it. That's how I realized, Prabhuji, when you were explaining this verse.
Man, nice,
Hare
bro.
Krishna.
So basically, the knowledge is the main thing. Knowledge and understanding is the main thing, and that is triggered by what is right and wrong based on the scriptures, and that will lead us, as you said, based on that knowledge, it will give us the difference between right fear and wrong fear, and it will give us that understanding. Right fear is means controlled, and wrong is,
Is
whether
uncontrolled
somebody
fear.
will be crazily driving or whatever, they will try to put their hand into fire. Let's trying to say, we all know that fire is not right. You should not touch because this will burn. But there are some people who really want to test it out. Is it true? And they will burn, and they will not go by the direction or the instruction, but they will try to. So that is actually should be avoided. And you rightly said how that knowledge translates to what to do with an element of understanding for fear and not fear, and how it is going to bind us or not bind us. So that sequence, as you mentioned, is very critical, and I think you narrated it nicely. Thank you, bro.
Also, Prabhuji, the knowledge is also should come from scriptures. It should not be self made, Prabhuji. That Krishna is explaining here also, that we should take that from scriptures, because that gives the direction what is right and what is wrong. The knowledge it gives. So source is of that knowledge is basically the scriptures, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, bro. Any other comments, bro?
No, Prabhuji, thanks.
No comments, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, bro. So, any other comments from Bala Prabhu, Triloki Prabhu? Thank you so much for joining.
Welcome, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, one thing I just wanted to mention that, Prabhuji, I find this scripture, this note from Bhagavad Gita is little bit difficult to get everything out of it. But I think if we go through again later and multiple times, probably it will make sense.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Prabhuji, you're breaking in between. I couldn't get it.
No, Prabhuji, what I was saying is that, so far I see like, this, scripture, this part of the Bhagavad Gita is little bit, difficult for me to, understand fully compared to others, right? Compared to other scriptures, other stanzas. But I think, if we, go on repeating, like, because we keep on, revising the whole thing, right, every year. So maybe in few months it will make more sense to me, because right now I'm not totally like 100% getting out of it. Maybe I understood 50% of it, but I still have my questions, but hopefully it will clear out.
Yes. So, Prabhu, I just want to share one thing. If you can see my screen. So, Krishna let out the understanding and explanation to Arjuna in a very succinct way. So from 19, he started with analysis of actions. See, actions can be so many things, right, Prabhu? Actions can be driven by knowledge, which is very critical. Then karma, nature of action. Then karta, doer of action. Then now we are in buddhi, or understanding of the action. And then dhriti, determination of action. Then sukha, or the derivation of happiness from action. So as you can see, Prabhu, in Bhagavad Gita, in this phase, in this portion, if we analyze from 19 to 39, we are in 30 now. So Krishna is saying this, for this action, he wants to see what is action. Any activity you do which is favorable to Krishna consciousness. But this action needs some knowledge. You need some knowledge to do the action. Then you need karma, or the nature of action. That is explained in 23, 25. And then in the next three verses, in the next three triplets, Krishna talks about karta, or the doer of the action. And then now we are in the buddhi, or the understanding of the action. So as you can see, Prabhu, Krishna is going sequentially these triplets with analysis of these modes on action, starting with knowledge, transcending into karma, nature of action, going into karta, or the nature of the doer or the actor of the action, and buddhina. So as you can see, Prabhu, it is a very beautiful subject matter where Krishna is going sequentially. So I think this you have attended a lot actually, and if you little bit open up your
So only thing, like, that concerns me, like, sometimes we do action, right? And every work has, action and reaction. But even though we know some, these principles and these things we have to follow, but as a person, and the person is like, the person will have, a lot of dependency, and he will have his, loved ones and other things, right? Friends and, other people around him. And sometimes he has to do the things which may not be in his principles, may not be in his book or protocol to follow, but he has to do that for a family member or someone who he is attached to it, right? But in that case, even though it's not exactly whatever written in the scripture to follow, so in that case, the work what he does, it might give some bad reaction or good reaction, we don't know, right? So it might give some bad reaction. So in that case, how one should handle that situation, because we cannot say no.
Yes. Perfect, Prabhu. This is why we need Bhagavad Bhakti Vriksha, because where we bring it. So what you are saying, Prabhu, is we are surrounded by family members, friends, and so many individuals who have a different understanding of what is good, what is not good. And Bhagavad Gita takes us towards a path which is coming from the lotus mouth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it is a tall order in the sense it takes time for us to understand. But the family members, the friends, they are not there yet. So what we should do, and you are absolutely right. Actually, now I'm in India, and I'm going because in India there are so many followings, there are so many paths, and sometimes when Srila Prabhupada explains in a very scientific manner, which we know over a period of time that is accurate, that's accurate, but not all of the people around us are in the same plane or same platform. So in order for us to sort of do it, so take it slow, Prabhu. What will happen is soon they take to the scriptures, you encourage them to take to scriptures, which they may not have yet, and you are actually right that we live in a society, and sometimes when we try to influence our views on them, they often do not accept it, and sometimes you need to do a lot of things based on everyone's comfort level. But as you become closer and closer, and as your foundation on Krishna consciousness becomes stronger and stronger, you'd find ways. Krishna will give us buddhi, Prabhu. And initially, Krishna may not give us buddhi, but when Krishna sees our determination in understanding him, he will give us buddhi to kind of take everyone together in this journey of Krishna consciousness. It will just a matter of time, Prabhu. It will all, settle down, and it will give us a very strong foundation as we hear it, read it from Bhagavad Gita, and it will give us very strong uh, concepts to follow and adhere to Krishna consciousness. But you are right.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah, I
And
think.
Prabhuji, I will add to that. Trailokya Prabhu, first thing
Yes,
what
Prabhuji.
when you asked that question, what came to my mind is first, Prabhuji, is we should not and as first of all, it's your consciousness, Prabhuji, that you very well know what is right and what is wrong because of the exposure to these Bhagavad Gita classes
Yes,
or
Prabhuji.
whatever exposure you have. Doesn't matter, right?
Right.
But what I want to tell is that you got the knowledge. So now the second step, see, as Prabhuji told, and Srivandandas Prabhu also tells, you cannot do a turn at a 360 miles per hour. You have to slow down and take a turn, right, Prabhuji? If you're going at 360 miles, so why and we and
Yes.
our family members are going at a certain speed,
Mhm.
and we know that there is an exit and we miss the exit, right? That's
Yeah.
what your essence of the example is, that you
Right.
miss the exit. So you know that you miss the exit, that is your knowledge, but the people next to us may not know that even we miss the exit because you are the driver and they may not be
Right.
caring about
Mhm.
it also.
Right.
So point is, Prabhuji, understanding Krishna first sees, okay, he has the realization. You have the realization that you missed the exit, there is something wrong, but
Mhm.
we had to keep going because of the inertia, right? Our
Right.
karma and inertia, we are going.
Right.
Now, the second thing is now for the so that this doesn't happen next time, two things we can do, Prabhuji. One, we will pray for them, Prabhuji. As Prabhuji told, since they are not exposed and we are exposed, we can pray for them, Prabhuji. Will it happen tomorrow? We don't know. Will it happen 10 days afterwards? Or it will happen 1 year afterwards? We don't know. But we can pray that their consciousness also is dovetailed to Krishna consciousness. Uh, and Krishna will teach them in their manner. He may not teach exactly in the manner or how we are taught. He may teach according to this, he will give them the knowledge, circumstance, or the timing so that they will learn. So what we can do is that keep our consciousness as it is, as in this verse it says, we know the scripture, so we know what is right and what is wrong. The second is the consciousness. We will pray for them so that their consciousness is also aligned and they will also try to get on to the, that is what, so with your association, they will also get it, Prabhuji. We need not get frustrated because see, every action, and this action is not coincidence, Prabhuji. What you are doing for the
Mhm.
family, this is
Right.
planned by Krishna only. So
Oh,
he knows that in the long run, there will be a solution for that also. So don't get confused with it. That's what my point
I
is,
see.
Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji. That helps. Thank you.
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu, for asking a thought-provoking question. Any other final comments, Prabhu? Bala Prabhu, we're really happy to have you around.
I was looking at more like some kind of a decision tree, right? So in this decision tree, we look at it and say that there are some actions where, you based on how you perform it, whether you do it in a mode of goodness or you mode of passion or what. So these are different decisions that you make, and following that, then you come to the next stage and so on. So either you can look at it like a matrix saying that, okay, here's a combination of things that's happening, or like a decision tree saying that, okay, once you take one particular limb of the tree, then that's the path you follow. Is that the way to look at it?
Yes, so
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you, Prabhuji.
And also, Prabhuji, this decision tree, we should not carve out this decision tree. This decision tree has to come through scriptures, through parampara system, basically. Otherwise, we will start making our decision tree according to our whims and fancies. So that is one caution,
Right.
Prabhuji.
Right, Prabhuji. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, bro. Thank you for contributing. So when we think about this manual of life as laid out by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's going very uh, step by step. So he is actually letting us recognize the decision making we end up in our life. And Bala Prabhu, you put it very nicely. It's like a decision tree. The action you're doing is in this mode or that mode. So he has given a yardstick. If that is how we want to see it, like do's and don'ts. Very nice. So that's as long as we get benefited from this, why not? Srila Prabhupada has always taken to the scriptures and told us that we should, if we live our life based on the principles of Bhagavad Gita, our life will be sublime. So that we take it as a decision tree, do's and don'ts. Absolutely, why not? Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
So, Prabhu, let's end here if there is no other question. I just want to say that His Holiness Bhakti Vinod Maharaj is in the temple, in our temple area. So, whatever programs he is doing, please take benefit. He is a very practical. He's one like us. He has gone to good schools and he's technically gone to NITs and IITs, and then he has come to Krishna consciousness. So if you hear him, you will get a lot of his. Personally, he is one of my favorite uh,
Maharaj.
Maharaj. So please, if I have not shared the flyer, some of you may have seen. I'll share it again. So please make. There is a Saturday program I hear. So just take his association. He is amazing soul who can really transform multiple lives. So please take his association and anything else I'll share in the temple WhatsApp group. Any other comments or announcements, Prabhu?
Just a quick question. Is there something going on in the temple tomorrow morning?
Tomorrow morning, yes, exactly. And
Oh, that is
also,
so.
yes, yeah, he is going to different temples around New Jersey. But tomorrow morning we have a program Maharaj is giving. I think he's giving Srimad Bhagavatam Katha. And Maharaj, whenever he speaks nectarian Katha. So I'll share the timings, Prabhu. Yeah, it's tomorrow morning. Yeah.
Okay. Just wondering what time to what time is it?
It's probably 7:30 or 8 to 9:30. I'll send the flyer Prabhu with the WhatsApp group in our Bhakti Vriksha WhatsApp group.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So any final comments before we end? Let's offer prayers at the lotus feet of all Vaishnavas by saying Vansha Kalpataru
Prabhasindu Bhayevacha Patitanam
Pranam
Pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Namo Namah.
Namah.
Vaishnava ki jai,
Ki Jai.
Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Adi ki
Gaur
Jai.
Ki
Shri
Jai.
Krishna. Hari Bol.
Hari Hari
Hari Bol.